Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
And tonight we are reviewing the movie Creepshow that was released in 1982.
Yeah, that's the original one, the first one. There were several Creepshow movies. There was a Creepshow 1, then Creepshow 2 a couple of years later, then Creepshow 3. Now, Creepshow 3 is a red herring because the first two movies were based on Stephen King stories. The third one wasn't. Ha! How's that go for you?
So, anyway, I thought, seeing as we've already reviewed both the TV series, Season 1 and Season 2...
Yeah, we did, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah. I thought we might go back a few years to where it originally came from. So we've gone back to the first movie, in a sense, because at this very moment they're releasing the third season of Creepshow. At this very moment,
yeah.
We just watched a few episodes of it last night,
good, actually.
and they're pretty good. And I'll probably review it next time.
Yeah, we might do a couple of those
Once this series is finished. I don't want to miss any episodes that.
Anyway, I'm going to do a bit of a talk through what I normally do before she starts tattering away about the story. Okay, now, produced by Richard Rubenstein, directed by one of our little heroes from way back when, George A. Romero, sorry.
Yeah, don't confuse him with his son.
He had a little boy called George Romero. A screenplay by Stephen King. Now, all these stories have been written by Stephen King.
Yeah.
Okay. Every story in the movie. There were two that were specifically written for the movie. They weren't actually short stories which were made into the movie. They were just made as screenplays for this production. Now, okay, here we go. The film is a homage to EC horror comics of the 50s. We like that period. We like the old movies and stuff back in there, and I like the old comics. And Tales from the Crypt, I remember now, there was a comic called Tales of the Crypt way back then.
True.
It was a little bit before my time, but I was reading something like that when I got a bit older. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe they got influences from Tales from the Crypt. I'm only guessing because the Crypt Keeper, the old one, not the John Cassier one I'm thinking of, but the earlier one, he does make me think of the of this Creepshow keeper in this one.
Wasn't he didn't they do an English version of that? The English one?
You're thinking of Tales of the Crypt.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, Tales of the Crypt. Yeah, sorry, my mistake. Okay, now I won't go into too much. Budget was $8 million. Box office was 21 million. Now, I obviously the box office wasn't great because a lot of people don't like watching anthologies. They just want to go see a movie.
Yeah.
Okay. However, I believe it did really good on home media. So everyone likes it. Well, most people like it. Even a lot of reviewers liked it.
My theory is, if people are so anxious to watch the TV series, then no doubt they've developed a fan base for it.
Yeah, but in 1982 was the beginning of it. They didn't have a fan base until it actually started.
True,
yeah.
but it didn't stop them from making movie 2 and number 3.
Yeah, because it did actually make enough profit to make it interesting. Like I said, the home media, back in those days, VHS and better, were probably doing quite well at the shops and the sales and whatever, rentals. And so people said, "Ooh, we're making more money out of this. Let's make another one. Let's do it again." Okay, there's quite a few people involved. I'm not going to mention every person in every show.
Right.
Every part of the anthology. But I will mention a few things just in passing before we pass it over to our storyteller. Now, I will mention one thing. Joe King.
Or Joe Hill. Go on.
Can I actually finish the sentence?
I know, but I can see why he changed his name.
I was going to say Joe King, who was also known, professionally by the name of Joe Hill, is Stephen King's little boy, and he actually plays Billy Hopkins in the Prologue and Epilogue. He's the little boy who likes reading creepy comics, and he's got a mongrel father who doesn't like them. Okay. Tom Savini, who's part of the special effects and
team.
team, and amongst other things, he does lots of things, I think, does a cameo as a garbage collector at the end of the movie.
One thing about George A. Romero is he often, sometimes in some of his earlier movies, like Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead and probably the Night of the Living Dead, he would always cast even the crew members
Why not?
in
It
the role
saves money. You're paying them to stand there and do something. They're not doing something. Get in frame. Now, it saves money. Now, some of the stories here. Father's Day has John Lormer in it and Vivica Lindfors. The guy who plays the corpse is John Amplas. There's a story, The Lonesome Death of Geordie Verrill. Geordie is played by Stephen King himself. Something to Tide Over You. It's the main star of that is Leslie Nielsen. We also have a young Ted Danson in it. Now, one of my favourite ones, got two interesting actors, a crate. Hal Holbrook and Fritz Weaver are in this one, and a lady by the name of Adrienne Barbeau. Barbeau is the right pronunciation, I think. But the last one, the creepiest one person in it, E.G. Marshall. And his name is Upton Pratt, and he is one of the biggest Pratts I have ever come across, hence the name. And this is one of the shows that were purposely written for the movie. It wasn't a short story before.
Yeah, it's interesting because in that one, it takes place in one location.
One room, spot. Pretty much, or one little apartment, and had a cast of thousands, didn't it? Thousands of cockroaches. Oh, I let the cat out of the bag.
Oh, there we go.
Anyway,
yeah, as I said before, I won't go into too much details because I've discussed the Creepshow before in both the TV show ones. I mentioned Joe Hill, who's been in this, and how he's also a writer in his own right. So I won't go into details about that too much. So anyway, I'll just dive into the story, shall I?
Splash.
Okay. The story begins prologue-wise.
Yeah. Little boy,
Billy, is being mistreated by his dad, or
well, he is. You give him a hard time. Yeah.
Well, they call him Stan, which could be a stepdad, for all I know, maybe.
No, all it says he's abusive father. He could be a stepdad. He could be his father. I got no idea.
Doesn't really say.
He's not very fatherly.
Anyway, his dad threats to throw away his Creepshow comic into the garbage, and it's during a thunderstorm, and all the and it's really creepy. It plays sort of a little bit of like the rendition of Halloween at the beginning when you think about it, with a little bit of Creepshow thrown in. Anyway, he takes it out to the curb where the bin is, and he heads back inside. His wife is telling him, you shouldn't do that, it's not nice, all that stuff, and he's saying, this is why fathers are invented.
Be assholes. Yeah.
The Tom guy, he was also in Season of the Witch a year after this movie, but I won't go into details about that.
In this movie, we're talking about this, not Season of the Witch.
I know, but he's been in a lot of horror movies, plenty on my plate, including The Fog, too. That was done by John Carpenter.
We have a long way to go.
Okay, moving on. So, Bill is up in his room and he's saying, I hope you burn in hell, to his dad. And then we see in the window...
The creep.
Yeah, beckoning him...
To the window.
And then he transforms into an animation, and there we start... he points to the crypt comic. Creepshow comic, and we then get a bit of a credits, the title card, and then we roll into the first of stories.
It starts off a couple of panels of the story in cartoon form, then it goes to drool. It's backwards and forwards between animated, and which is a really good transition.
All the inspiration behind the TV show.
Yeah,
so
really.
Anyway, it begins with Father's Day, and this one is about it's about a wealthy family and how they're just there to celebrate Father's Day because their father or grandfather or who knows is long dead, and somehow...
Well, it would have been father, but the younger people would have been their grandfather.
Yeah, grandfather.
The older lady would have been the father.
Anyway, he was murdered by his own daughter, and these guys...
The daughter was a carer.
Yeah.
But he was a really nasty, horrible turd, so he deserved what he got.
Yeah, and I won't reveal the details, but he then does rise from the grave, and he looks for his cave.
So he kills his daughter who killed him, and then he kills somebody else who came out looking for the lady who got killed, and then he goes into
he kills a maid,
the house. Now killed the servant lady in the kitchen, whatever, and then the other daughter, I believe, came out there, the older lady. She came out looking for what's going on, and she didn't come back out of the kitchen. There's only 2 people left.
Yeah.
The 2 grandkids.
Yeah, they try to go search for their mum or something.
Or whatever.
And we then their grandfather appears and he says, I found my cake.
And he got this
Happy Father's Day to me.
Yeah, so he got the head of the lady who went into the kitchen looking for the maid on a platter with icing over it with 3 or 4 candles sticking out of her head. Very nicely done.
And they're screaming their tits off.
Yeah, well, as one would, yeah.
Anyway.
That was story 1.
Yes, and moving on. The next one is called The Lonesome Death of
Geordie Verrill.
That one, as Mike mentioned earlier, has Stephen King in it. And he plays a really rumbling farmer who encounters a meteorite that turns out to cause a bit of damage to his farm and to himself. And in the end, the place ends up turning into I'll
try to explain it. Sarah's lost for words here. This small meter about the size of a basketball lands in his property, just near his farm, gas station, whatever it is. And he goes, I can make money out of this. I can sell it to the local
school college,
or university, whatever. And it breaks open. There's a goo inside. It gets into the ground. Mm-hmm. And this gooey stuff makes everything grow like grass, whatever, weeds, whatever. And he gets some on his fingers.
Yeah, and he starts licking his fingers like this.
And anyway, during the story, Sarah will tell the rest of the story, but while he's inside doing stuff, you see things like the ground starts turning green, weeds coming up, and even the pail that the meteor is in, he put the meteor parts in a bucket. It starts sprouting green stuff out of it. Meanwhile, you'll take over.
And all the time he's walking around his house, more green is starting to sprout where he sits or stands or touches something.
Yeah.
And at one point, some of the green stuff is starting growing on him.
Yeah, on his hands, on his chest, on his tongue, back, whatever. You're down there. Well, he did go to the toilet, didn't he? He did have to touch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, but by the end, I won't reveal you what happens next. It's really funny.
Let's just say he's in touch with nature.
Yeah.
Anyway,
moving on. The next one is called Something to Tide You Over. That deals with a wealthy man who is trying to get even with his ex-spouse and her ex-lover.
And this one's Leslie Nielsen. I love Leslie Nielsen. He plays straight roles straight, and he plays comic good. He's really good.
Yes, and it's an interesting ending to this one, and I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next one
is... a little bit of an overview.
Okay.
See, Leslie Nielsen's wife is having an affair with a young Ted Danson. It's obviously Leslie Nielsen has a young bride. And Leslie Nielsen sets up a way to get back at both of them in an ingenious way. You could say he takes them to the beach for an outing.
Yeah, but don't misinterpret it, but he plays an absolute nasty.
Oh, he's nasty, but it's a funny nasty.
Yes, funny nasty.
That's what this is, a comedy horror. Yes. So he does the comedy part so well.
Yeah,
he's beautiful.
I always love it when it deals with wealthy, nasty people, and they get their just desserts.
What goes around comes around in this case. Yeah.
Yes, and by these people get their just desserts, they in turn serve him a bit of dessert.
Yes. Won't say too much more because it will give some information away, and we don't want any spoilers going out because of those young guys out there, young people who haven't seen this, because it has been done, 40 odd years ago. Yeah, it's a good watch.
Now, the next one is called The Crate, and this one is not a bad story.
And actually, it's getting meatier.
What?
The stories are getting a bit meatier.
Yeah, and this one is...
Yeah.
I think that's the interesting thing.
I think they stay so soft, medium and hard. Yeah.
It starts off, well, I don't feel that feeling here, but I felt it in the second movie that it had a little bit, it started growing a little bit more meat.
It gets more intense.
Anyway, this one is pretty interesting. It takes place in a university, and a professor finds, or at least his janitor finds an old crate that's detailed. I don't know what it says on it.
It says Arctic Expedition 1832 or something or other.
And the crate is built tightly.
Yeah, it's an old-fashioned wooden crate and it's got nails in the top and it's got chains around and stuff like it's not meant to be open till Christmas,
Anyway, the professor and the janitor open it and we find out there's a creature inside.
He must have been very hungry. He's been there for over 150 years.
Mm-hmm. And they weren't the only ones that see him. A student sees him and gets devoured by this thing. And the professor, he runs back to a colleague who's having an unhappy time in an unhappy marriage.
Yeah.
He's married to a woman who's total...
She's a bitch.
A total bitch.
Well, it's the only way to put it. She's a real bitch.
And he fantasizes
he wants to get rid of her. And he sees, this creepy crawly guy, this creature might be a good way to get rid of his wife.
Yeah, so he he drugs his friend, the professor, and he heads over there, does a bit of maintenance cleaning.
Cleans up all the blood that's around, and he phones his wife to get her over to the university.
He sends her a letter saying...
That's right.
He wants her to come to the lab because his friend, colleague, was in trouble.
That's right.
And he couldn't use her nice touch or something.
Because he got one of the female students into trouble or something or other.
Yeah.
And she needed a woman's touch to talk to this little girl.
So she heads over there and he taunts the creature to get up and kill his wife. At first doesn't stir and she begins mocking him, saying nasty things about how he's
useless, you're lame, and all of a sudden this creature grabs her and gobbles her up and he gets back into the box again.
Yeah, and then of course the man chains up the box again. I wish he could have nailed it down. Could have been a better way to get... Anyway, he then takes it to the quarry,
It's a flooded quarry, rather deep.
Yeah, and he dumps the creature into the water.
Hoping to drown it, kill it,
dispose
of it.
And he tells his colleague what he did, and they are satisfied that was the last time they'll ever see this creature.
And they can live happily ever after, and I'm not going to tell you what happens after that.
No.
Because that'd be a spoiler alert.
Anyway, the next story on the chopping block is they creep up on you.
They're creeping up on you.
They're creeping up on you, yeah, that's it. And in that one, it deals with just one person, but there's a few voiceover people here and there.
Yeah, colleagues and maintenance men and stuff. But it's pretty much a man alone in his sterile unit in an old building.
Yeah.
He's one of those people who don't like germs. A clean freak. There's a name for it.
Germophobic.
Germophobic, that'll do. He doesn't like germs and horrible creepy crawly things. He wants
throughout the
sterile area.
And he's a wealthy creep.
Wealthy creep.
Yeah, and he cheeses anyone who comes on the phone or even at the door.
He's nasty, rude. Everybody vents it.
And he calls them bugs or nasty. Or
he refers to everybody as nasty, in nasty terms. How's that?
Yeah. And then somehow there's a blackout, and this causes something weird fiction going down.
You don't know what the blackout is interesting. Maybe that had something to do with the next part of the story. I've got no idea.
Yeah, and somehow it causes a lot. There was a phone call earlier in the story where a woman accused him of causing her husband to commit suicide.
It was a business takeover, and he screwed him over.
Yes.
Yeah, big business. Someone's got to be.
And she cursed him.
Lose.
And she cursed him, which could have an indication.
Curses foiled again.
Anyway, then these roaches appear all over the house.
Oh, coming out of drains and toilets and stuff and air vents and well, actually, I will admit they used 20,000 cockroaches. 20,000 cockroaches for this scene. Crikey, that would take a lot of fly spray and stuff to get rid of, wouldn't it?
And well, I won't go into details yet.
Let's just say it wasn't a happy ending for this man.
Yeah. And then we then cut to the epilogue. Yeah, that's the
epilogue. That's very epilogue. Very good.
Yeah, where the comic is still lying on the
in the garbage bin or on the ground.
On the ground.
It blew out of the garbage on the ground. Yeah.
And two garbage men, Tom Savini, obviously.
Savini and somebody else.
Yeah, and they see the comic and they go through it and they notice a voodoo doll article. Advertisement. But fortunately, the coupon's gone.
It had already been taken out.
Yes.
And then we go.
Then we go inside the house, and
dear old dad has got a pain in the neck.
Yeah, saying he's been having pains all night, and his wife says maybe I should get you some Bengay, whatever.
Oh yes, maybe some sort of cream or painkiller or something.
Meanwhile, Billy up in his room is using the voodoo doll he purchased through the Creepshow. And attached a bit of his dad's sweater on it.
A shirt or shirt tail or something. A bit of material anyway off his clothing.
Previously.
And a bit of hair.
Yeah.
He found somehow or other. Have a hairbrush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he starts stabbing at the voodoo doll.
And every time yeah. And so Dad was being punished quite severely.
Yeah, and then we fade out.
But wait a minute.
What?
It goes back to the Creepshow guy.
Oh yeah, the image of the boy punching at the voodoo doll then transforms into the cover of the next Creepshow, which appears in Creepshow 2.
There you go.
The movie.
Yeah, so a good ending.
Yes, the end.
So we didn't want to gloss over it too much. We didn't want to say too much because it's 5 stories, and we want to keep it special. Yeah,
and Mike's found some interesting things about the last story he mentioned, which I want to hear more about. The one about
I'll go through some of that.
I would love to hear a little bit more about that.
I'll go through the production notes. I will come along that in a minute. Now, production. Now, in keeping with Romero's tradition of filming in and around the Pittsburgh area, he must live in that area or lived in that area. The film was shot in an empty all-girls school located outside Greensburg, Pennsylvania. So they converted some of it to studios and did some of the film actually in there.
Brilliant.
Be good if you get a good location, hey guys?
That's amazing.
The school's converted into a film studio, like I said, and the episode's Lonesome Death of Jodie Verrill, They're Creeping Up on You, as well as the prologue and epilogue were filmed entirely at the school. It saves moving people around, doesn't it?
Except for the beach one I mentioned, that's probably filmed at a beach.
No, I said those 3 stories.
Okay, those 3 stories. Sorry.
Now the crate. Most of the interior and exterior shots for the university sequences were filmed at the Carnegie Mellon University. And that's where Romero used to go to
study.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Now with Margaret Morrison Hall serving as Amberson Hall. So anyone who knows the college would know that area. Now, the backyard party that they had in the crate story was actually filmed in Romero's own backyard.
Ooh, cool.
So he said, well, hey, why hire a place when you got a place of your own?
That is clever.
Father's Day was filmed on location at a mansion in Pittsburgh. In the Pittsburgh suburb of Fox Chapel, Pennsylvania. I don't know why I went that far away.
Maybe it was the only...
Well, I don't know. It's Father's Day. It was on location of the mansion. There could have been a mansion a bit closer to home. Anyway, Something to Tide Over You was filmed on location at Island Beach State Park, Berkeley Township, New Jersey. Okay, so again, they're moving around a bit here. They might have had to help different film crews too, which made it a bit easier. Now, here's something. In a 2015 interview with Ted Danson, he explained that brief shot where he was underwater. So that he says they made this little aquarium tank.
Oh, I seen that one.
Okay. I got into a wetsuit and climbed in, and then somebody would reach down with an oxygen tank ventilator thingy-wingy, and I'd breathe, and then they'd take that out, and then there was a yoke made out of, I don't know, wooden fake sand, and looked like my head was buried in sand underwater. And they take, he'd hold his breath and do a bit of film footage until he starts going, help! And then it gives more air. Interesting. Now, a bit more notes. Ray Mendez, an entomologist with the American Museum of Natural History, and David Brody provided 20,000 cockroaches for the segment They're Creeping Up on You. Now, in the final scene, though, in which the room is almost filled with cockroaches, many of the apparent insects are actually nuts and raisins as specified by Tom Savini.
This is what I was referring to earlier.
Yeah, so, hey, what a waste of food. They could have given it to cockroaches. They could have had a party.
I think they probably would have ate it. I thought it was kind of clever, using almonds and, other nuts.
Well, what colour is a cockroach? They're brownies and blackies and, and raisins are brownie, dark brownie sort of things, and some of the nuts would have had dark brown shells on them. So,
and from that last shot in the film, it did look like there was more than just one cockroach in the area.
He had a problem. He had an infestation. You would not believe it. Okay. Anyway. You have to get the pest control man. He wouldn't come near the place, probably. Now, I'm not going to go through all the critiques.
Yeah.
But I will go through a couple. Rotten Tomatoes gave 74%. It's uneven. It's as anthologies often are, but Creepshow is colourful, frequently funny, and treats its inspiration with infectious reverence. So they liked it. Okay. Roger Ebert, who I'm a bit hot and cold on him sometimes, he liked it. Romero and King have approached this movie with humour and affection, as well as an appreciation of the macabre.
Way to go.
So he's a hard nut to get past, Roger.
Yeah,
some of the other guys there have said pretty much the same things. A couple of weird ones, like, blah, blah, blah. No, anyone over a 12-year-old wouldn't like it.
Well, it was not meant for a 12-year-old.
No, anyone over a 12-year-old wouldn't like it. Yeah, wait a minute, grow up,
I mean, how can he know?
How would he know? He's not 12. Now, despite its slightly negative reviews, but more positive ones, it didn't get a lot of box office, but it's become a horror cult classic.
I know, I have been really
And Bravo, whoever Bravo is, awarded it the 99th spot on their 100 scariest movie moments.
Cool.
Mostly for the scene with the cockroaches, blah, blah. I won't say what they did because that'll be a spoiler alert, but the cockroach sequence in it, they thought it was rather scary and creepy. It was reminiscent of Alien.
Now there's a little bit of a spoiler.
And Legacy. We were talking about things. There was 2 spin-off movies done. There's Creepshow 2 and Creepshow 3. I think they tried to do a web series called Creepshow Raw, which didn't get off the ground. They'd done some other animated shows, series. They've done a lot of different things, but also I didn't know that Tales from the Dark Side was a spin-off.
Yeah, it was.
But they couldn't use the name.
Of course not.
There's a title battle going on, so they changed it to Tales of the Dark Side.
I see.
So
that's why they couldn't call it Creepshow 4 or 3.
Well, the TV shows.
Oh, the TV. Oh, yeah, the TV show. Sorry.
Well, that franchise, because I think it did a pilot movie, then all those TV shows.
I wonder how they were able to get around the red tape for the actual current TV show.
They probably paid a license fee.
They probably did.
Yeah. Or maybe the same studio, or I don't know. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
I know it doesn't.
Okay, right. No, I'm not going to read all these other notes. I've got lots of it. Blah, blah, rah, rah. Nah. Needless to say, it's available for sale. eBay has lots and lots and lots of them. Amazon's available on Prime. So if you want to have a look at it, or through another streaming source or whatever you can find that you can get access to it. But remember, it's Creepshow 1982.
Yeah, do not confuse it with the TV series or the animation or any of the other stuff. You don't want that.
Yeah,
Trust me.
And if you do go looking for it and trying to buy one, remember, back in 82, it would have been on VHS or Beta, make sure you get a DVD or a Blu-ray. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and be careful on not to get a VHS or whatever.
No, unless you got a VHS playing your purest. I knew a guy a couple of years ago. He was still collecting those big laser discs. They're about the size of a record, a big record, an album. And because he said he liked the idea of having the old original stuff, so he used to collect old laser players. So if we had a breakdown, instead of a laser player, and he used to collect the laser discs. And I go, wow, that's a collector.
Yeah, it is a collector.
Yeah,
but I don't know what happened to him though.
Who?
I wonder what happened to him.
I don't know. I got more stock than him now, anyway.
Yeah. I just never...
See, he's a purist. He used to sort of go out there and get stuff different ways, and I get mine different ways. I borrow things and copy them and stuff from friends and whatever, and yeah. So he had to pay for all his. I bought a lot of mine. Don't get me wrong. I do the right thing. But where I can beg, borrow, or steal, oh yeah, I'll get it, yeah, and add it to the collection. And I got a huge collection. And that's where this daughter of mine got a taste for old movies.
I still do. I still like a mixture here and there.
Well, you like the old movies and the new movies, but you got a taste for my old 50s horror and sci-fi. That's why you made a movie based on that sort of stuff.
True.
Yeah. Anyway, I have got little more to say. I mean, if we got into it, you could talk about everything and then give all the spoiler alerts away, and I don't want to do that.
No, I mean, I know that's been around for such a long time, and as much as I would love to indulge and tell you guys all the gory details on every single segment, I'd rather not want to tell you guys, because then you guys won't go ahead and watch it.
It'll give the whole lot away. We want to leave some surprises for you.
Yeah, at least get enjoyment out of it.
Can we say, it's a bit short, we've got a few minutes to spare. Do you want to talk about anything else about George Romero or anything? Or?
Yeah, I mean, did you guys know, when I looked up about George Romero in the book, I probably mentioned it in the past, but he was actually... When he was auditioning actors for Night of the Living Dead or in Dawn of the Dead, he was not. I mean, he didn't consider his heroes. He didn't want to make them You know, he didn't. When he was auditioning, he didn't consider casting just African Americans throughout his production, because he was. Throughout the scripts, if you ever look at a script, you'll find that that's the last thing you do mention in a script. You don't mention, the race.
I will translate that. What Sarah's trying to say, when he actually did an idea of a casting list, what he wanted, he didn't specify, I want an Afro-American, I want a Chinese, I want a white American. Sure. But whoever came up with the goods acting-wise at the auditions was what he chose. So if he had a Afro-American person in the role, that's because he's the best actor for the role, not because I better put a token person in there.
His main goal in making movies like this is that he wants to have a bit of make sure that there's a bit of mixture of different people.
Yeah, like you would. When you walk down the street, I don't know where you live, but I mean, I know where I walk down the street here, I see Chinese, I see the odd Indians, I see other people who look like me, but definitely come from Europe, so they might come from Poland or somewhere. So we have a cosmopolitan area here.
The other people who are a hate culture thing at the moment, who going through.
Yeah, some people get a bit funny about that.
They get funny about different communities mixing in a movie or TV show.
But I hate the reverse bias.
Me too.
What's reverse bias? Reverse bias is where. Oh, we're going to put a movie or a TV show together. We must put a Chinese person in, and we've got to put an Afro-American. Okay, we have to do that. And because, they'll keep everybody happy, that's reverse bias. Take it the other way. They put them in whether they can do the job or not. I always maintain you get the best actor to portray a role.
And imagine when he was casting both, some of the guys in his stories. I think he was just trying to find the best one who would fit the picture.
Yeah. Look, take Candyman. Great movie, right?
Right.
Now, it's supposed to be what's his name?
I think you're meaning Tony Todd.
Yeah, no, the role he played. The artist guy he portrayed was supposed to be a slave or from a slave family.
Yeah.
Who was an artist. Well, all the slaves were Afro-American, so he couldn't really very well put a white guy in there, a Chinese guy. That had to be an Afro-American. So then you can obviously specify, I need to have an Afro-American guy who can play that sort of role. And obviously you go for your Afro-American artist. That sort of stuff. And that's what you do. But you couldn't have a white guy playing it. You see? You couldn't have a Chinese. It's supposed to be American slave cast. So, yeah. So that's about the only time you can actually pick a race, colour, creed sort of thing. Yeah.
Although a lot of people have picked Ramon's movies apart, said some nasty things about Romero, sorry. George A. Romero. They often pick apart his movies by saying nasty things about why you keep casting protagonists as an African American. It's not. I think he does do, when he's auditioning, he probably doesn't just like any other director. He looks through everyone's work and see if they got the right stuff for the character.
The right stuff. That's exactly right.
He then rolls with that character, rolls with that actor.
That's what you do. The best one for the role. Oh, you look at the olden days when they started making movies. This is a fun bit of mine. Lon Chaney Sr. used to go to the film studios and they used to have people just come in there, look at a job board and say, oh, we're looking for an Indian, we're looking for a Chinaman, we're looking for so-and-so. And say, okay, it's just like, because it was all silent back in those days. Okay, there's a Chinese guy, the Chinese role for me, I'll go to that studio there, I'm a Chinese guy, and no, wait a minute, I'm not finished.
Go on, you're saying?
Lon Chaney, he'd say, looking for an Indian, there's no Indians here. He had his makeup box with him, so he made himself look like an Indian. He used to put some toner on his skin and different things, highlight his eyes differently, whatever, and made himself like an Indian, and he'd go and do the Indian role, or he'd do some other role, or something else, whatever. Yeah. So he had his makeup box with him every time he went to the studio, so he can get lots of roles.
Yeah, and as I said before to you guys, when George didn't have enough cast members to work on his film project, he would often go ahead and get his crew members to take part. Yeah,
exactly right. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a smaller production where you're hitting the budget down. Yeah, you use what you got.
Yeah, even Tom Savini's wife or girlfriend, I think, in Dawn of the Dead, she also participated as one of the zombies in that movie. So you see, George A. Romero, he was he's a big team player. He wanted to make sure everyone got, did their fair share of work.
Yeah, and if you're going to be a dead body, well, you have anybody. Yeah, you car park attendant, get here, lay down. Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
I remember 5 minutes. I remember when he was doing the zombie movie thing, he told his the actors to do what you like, to just walk funny, do your own thing. Yeah. Doesn't matter if it has to be looking like someone else, how they walk. Just do it.
Somebody might have a sore leg. Somebody might have 2 good legs. Somebody might be in a wheelchair. No, haven't they never seen a zombie in a wheelchair? Have you?
Nada.
Funny that.
Yeah, so he knows what he's doing there. I gotta admit, you gotta give the man credit. He knows how to do his productions.
Yeah. Now, I read somewhere, and I could be wrong, and I could have part of the information wrong, that when George Romero was making his first movies, he inspired some of the other movie makers of the time to make budget movies because he made, I'd say good movies, but no, they might be B movies going towards an A movie. He made them on a pretty shoestring budget sort of thing, and they said, hey, he can make these movies for a fraction of the cost that we can make them for. Why don't we take a leaf out of his book and do something like what he's doing, budget-wise? So, yeah, he sort of, I wouldn't say led the way, but he opened people's eyes up to doing things a bit more cost-effective.
Well, some people think he started off as he's an independent one, obviously.
Yeah,
he started
very
off
independent.
But even though he's long passed away and gone, but years later
but
he was
not forgotten.
But he was considered one of his better minds years later when you think about it. I mean, it's weird that when you think about newer filmmakers like the J.J. Abrams or the other guys, they just go to the studios and get hired, worked on the film project, and they never even think about the struggles of being an independent filmmaker.
Yeah, but you get a production company who's got an idea to make a movie, and they turn around and say, okay, who can we get to direct this? Yeah, they'll go and pay someone like Abrams or somebody else to go along there. Yeah. Can you direct a movie for us? I'll look at the script. Yeah, I like that script. I'll give it a go. And that's it. But to me, I mean, I prefer to see a producer-director involved instead of just a producer hiring a director, because sometimes a director isn't quite on the same page unless the director's been instrumental in the screenwriting. Yeah, see, that's like J.J. Abrams, because the ending of what was the Star Wars movie? Which one was it?
That was the Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi. Didn't like the ending.
Wait, it wasn't the Last Jedi. It was The Rise of Skywalker.
The Rise of Skywalker, yeah. Really bad ending. And J.J. Abrams made a comment he wasn't good at writing endings. Well, if that's the case, why didn't he get someone to ghostwrite with him to fix up the ending before and put it down as a finished product? So, yeah, he made a mistake. He could be a good screenwriter, he could be a good director, but it didn't show up in that movie at the end. So, yeah, that's what Sarah's trying to say.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I feel like sometimes when we do movies like these movies these days, the newer ones, I feel like sometimes they lose something in the translation.
I know what's wrong.
What's that?
The industry is stale. You look at me quizzically. Okay, I'll explain what I mean stale. And a lot of you out there will probably understand where I'm coming from. There's no new ideas. No. It's all been done before. Oh, we're going to do another sci-fi. Or we're going to do another slasher film. Okay, well, how can we make this one interesting? Yeah, there's nothing new coming out. And the same tired old people trying to breathe life into an old story theme, whatever it's going to be, and try to make it more interesting so they can put some more product out there. And the problem is all the inspiration, the insight, all the energy is coming from the independent guys who are trying to break into the industry.
Yeah, they're much more
interesting. These guys are frowned upon by the older guys who have been here for years and years and years, because they think kind of lose something out of it. And on the contrary, they should take them on board and learn from them and assimilate them into their own production teams and actually make a good production team.
Considering that almost a lot of that Core movie we reviewed a while back, I still think that one should definitely would have gone to mainstream in theatres when I think about that. And it annoys me that so many of these promising independent or not so independent films are going directly to Shudder or Netflix, and they're not given a fair shake.
But I don't care whether they go to the theatre or Netflix or whatever, or straight DVD. If there's a market and the guys who make it and get credited, decent accreditation for making it, but didn't you say at one stage the Oscars has a problem? They only do things with they're only looking at stuff that had theatrical releases. Well, now for the COVID virus, a lot of stuff's been going straight to the internet.
Yeah, or
streaming or whatever. So it's not going through the normal system. They have to reinvent the wheel here and take these guys into consideration when they're evaluating movies made during the course of whatever year it is.
Yeah, I practically said this like 100 times, guys, that we need to finalise or at least adapt the industry.
The industry's got to grow or go, and at the moment it's not looking real good.
Yeah, so many.
The bastions there, Hollywood and other countries there, really. You got it wrong. You had it right for so many decades.
I don't know what's
and putting these stone walls up and putting these unrealistic sort of rules in place, you're going to destroy the
and
the
so
industry.
so many well-loved filmmakers that have made their mark have just stooped to streaming their new films onto Netflix
but if the theatres haven't been open, where are they going to show them? In a toilet? They've got to show them somewhere.
I know that, but that's just the
No, you're missing a point. If the theatres are closed, no one's going to go to the
No,
theatre.
I didn't say the theatre. I mean, the theatres may not be closed because they're
in
reopened.
America, back when they were doing some stuff last year, a lot of the theatres were closed. No one was going to the theatre, and they had movies in the can ready to go. What are you going to do with it?
Good point.
They had to release it somewhere. Put them online, whatever, stream it, whatever.
Well,
make
some of
money
them are
out of it.
still in the can, so to speak.
Some are waiting to be released.
Yeah,
I know that.
some of them are postponed. Thanks, to next year or the year after that to be released.
Yeah, but
now.
some people can't wait. They need the money back.
Mm-hmm. And I don't blame
So they're releasing the movies so they can whether it goes streaming, they're getting money back.
Yeah.
So they can put feed the cat, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
So I do get annoyed that so many well-respected filmmakers out there are getting their work placed on stream instead of in the theatres. Even after say some parts of America and Australia no longer have to worry about the cinema. They open the cinema doors now, and they're allowing the people in. But now they've done this. There's still not very many worthwhile movies to watch.
Some people aren't going to the theatre in some areas because they're still worried about getting sick. Even though theatres are open, so they've got to try and get the money. Yes. Anyway, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Let's move on. Let's rate this. I'm going to give this. I just came through my cash register head brain. I'm going to give it about 9. Yeah.
I'm going to give this 10.5.
10.5. Ooh.
Because it's pretty good, and I think I do like the fact it's a class. It's become a cult classic now. It's a cult classic,
yeah.
Or pop cult classic.
Pop cult classic, whatever you want to call it, yeah.
Whatever you may call it.
Popcorn classic.
And I think it's even cool that they do still show it in special film events here and there.
Of course. It's movies like this. It spur other people on to do something. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of anthologies, Tales from the Hood, different things. They would have got the ideas and this sort of stuff.
Oh, incidentally, guys, Mike here, he showed me an older, or not older, I mean, just a different anthology called has Edgar Allan Poe
an old
stories.
movie done in, I think, the 60s. 60s? Yeah. Called Spirits of the Dead.
Yeah.
It had several different stories based on Edgar Allan Poe.
The first two were good. But the third one, it had baffled me.
The last one is supposed to baffle you. It's surrealistic. Mm-hmm. And you have to be really switched on to... I won't go into too much, but Spirits of the Dead, it's an old movie. Terence Stamp plays in the last story. If you can find a copy of it, I haven't checked if it's available, have a look at it. Now be careful. I mean, when I looked at it, the copy I had, the original copy, was the European copy with subtitles, so I had to get another copy, which had been anglicised, because I think it was done in Europe, so a lot of the people, even though they had some American actors in it, a lot of people were actually speaking in foreign tongues.
Yeah, because this was filmed in both Paris and Italy, wasn't it?
Yeah, France and Italy, but the local guys were speaking local language. And the Americans and English were speaking in English, and that sort of stuff. So they did everything in a foreign language. And I actually think that Jane Fonda, who's also in it, and maybe Terence Stamp, were actually speaking in the foreign language because they might have had French as a second language that they knew how to speak it. So, that sort of stuff. So if you look at their lips, might look out of sync. They've been dubbed.
Yeah, you could tell that it's been dubbed because by the way they
because they speak
the words.
Even Jane Fonda's an English-speaking lady, American. She might have been speaking French for her role, and then they'd said on the soundtrack over it to do her voice again in English.
I wonder how people do that. Speak it in a foreign language, but at the same time do a separate one at the studio, and then
they're only going to do one film.
And all that stuff.
And they're going to do 2 takes of the same thing and 2 different...
Well, I didn't say different 2 takes. I meant they recorded in a studio somewhere and then film it and do it in English and all that stuff.
I just said that. They did the film probably in the foreign language and then went to the studio and did the voiceovers for the English.
Well, I just wondered how
That's why I just said
how they were able to do that with making sure it fits with their way they speak and
they watch the movie.
How long
they watch the movie in the studio and stand there at a microphone and talk in the microphone.
And another thing is, what if they changed the wording?
No, they don't. They got a script.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Okay, you should know that.
I know that, but speaking in a foreign language can be
but the words can be a little bit different, but it's going to still be the same word, just transfer from one language to another. That's why they can look a little bit out of sync. When you get say an Asian like Japanese or Chinese, something rather, when you anglicise it, it's more noticeable because they use a slightly different muscle control in the talking, and it's more noticeable. When you got a European doing it, not quite so noticeable. Yeah, I've noticed that. So yeah, interesting. Yeah, interesting that. But Spirits of the Dead, I think it's 1960 something.
Yeah, and before you ask, guys, we're not sure about reviewing that one yet.
No, Sarah's not sure about it, but it's a good look. If you want creepy horror, Spirits of the Dead, and there's also another one. I think
another thing you should mention, Mike, is that if do not watch this movie when you're sober.
Stop it.
Right,
okay,
because most of it was a bit weird.
I watched it when I was sober. When I was a kid, I liked it. Now, what I'm going to say, there's also an English one, and I think it's called The Dead of Night, and that was done, I think, by Ealing Studios in London or somewhere.
I remember that one.
And that's creepy.
Yeah, it was.
And it was. I just can't remember who the actors are now, but it's an old movie. It's an old black and white movie. It is creepy. I think John Mills plays an architect or something, and I just can't remember all the British actors. I can't remember the names.
Yeah, and it's all.
It's really creepy.
Creepy.
And I think it's Dead of Night, that one.
Yeah, that one always creeped me out.
And it goes back to the 50s, mid to late 50s.
Yeah, I think that they used. I think that years later they kind of got some ideas from that for another. Anthology. I can't remember the name, obviously, but I think they got the idea of the similar idea that the guy is actually sleeping and he keeps on dreaming the same sequence
he's in a
over
dream
and
loop.
over again.
It starts off. He wakes up in the morning. I've had that dream again, not nightmare, whatever. And I got this job up the country. I've been offered up country. Got to go up there and see the people. And he drives up there and he comes up near the country house and he recognises the place from his dream. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, the movie, he wakes up. Oh, I had that dream again. Mm-hmm. And it starts off and he goes there and he drives his country home again and he sees a country home. So it's probably a dream within a dream, within a dream, or he's stuck in a dream loop. I got no idea. Yeah. Or maybe he could be crazy, he could be in a nut house. I don't know.
Yeah,
really.
The interesting thing in that, but both movies, is that they never even. While they said I had this weird dream, and then I think they either forgot it, because when you think about it, when you have nightmares,
look, most people when they have a dream or a nightmare or whatever,
they don't remember
it's fresh in your mind for a little bit of time when you first wake up, and then it starts to disappear.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
you don't remember the details; you just remember feelings
and the odd image, and that's about it. But this guy's reliving this every time he goes to sleep or whatever. Or he's stuck in this dream loop, a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream sort of thing. Don't know. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, good concept. But I did have that one in it. The last story was a ventriloquist dummy comes to life. And that's been used in several anthologies in different ways over the years and different stories. And that was the first time I saw a ventriloquist dummy come to life. And it scared the crap out of me when I first saw it as a kid. And there's, I never liked ventriloquist dummies ever since.
Yeah.
It's like gnomes. I hate gnomes.
Don't tell that to the gnomes.
Oh, I hate gnomes. Sorry, gnomes. If any gnomes are listening, I'm not personal. Just you guys creep me out too.
Anyway, I think that's about it. We're going all over the top with the anthology.
But Spirits of Dead. If you can get it, remember Terence Stamp. I think back 1960s. But if you get the foreign copy, it should be subtitled. But if you get the English-speaking one, be mindful it's dubbed. Okay. Okay,
anyway,
guys.
That's about it for us tonight. So thanks for listening to this latest podcast, everyone, and we'll see you guys for our next one. So this is Sarah Stephenson
and Michael.
Mike saying, see you guys around.
Like a result. Bye.
Bye.